I never take the bus. I've always had my reliable Honda Civic to get me around town. But that morning, my car wouldn't start, and I had an important meeting I couldn't miss. Little did I know that taking the bus that day would change my life forever. It was 7:15 a.m. when I climbed aboard. The bus was packed with the usual morning crowd, people in business attire, students with backpacks, elderly folks heading to their morning errands. I found an empty seat near the middle, next to a woman in a gray coat. She smiled at me, a perfectly normal smile, yet something about it made my skin crawl. "Good morning, Alex," she said. I froze. I wasn't wearing a name tag. My work badge was in my pocket. There was absolutely no way she could have known my name. Before I could ask how she knew it, she continued, "Rushing to that 8 a.m. meeting with Johnson and Partners? Don't worry, you'll make it on time." My heart started racing. That meeting was confidential. I hadn't told anyone about it, not even my wife. The woman's smile never wavered. "By the way, that blue tie you're wearing, it was a gift from your mother last Christmas, wasn't it? She has excellent taste." She was right again. Every word she spoke made my blood run colder. I wanted to get up, to move away, but my body wouldn't respond. The woman kept talking, revealing one personal detail after another. Things nobody but me could possibly know. Things I'd never shared with anyone. The worst part? She was just getting started. "Your first pet was a golden retriever named Max," she continued, her eyes never leaving mine. "You found him at a shelter when you were 8. He died when you were 17, hit by a car on Cedar Street." I felt the color drain from my face. I'd never posted about Max online, never talked about how he died. "Remember that time you stole $20 from your mother's purse when you were 12? You used it to buy that video game you wanted so badly. You still feel guilty about it, don't you?" My hands began to shake. This was impossible. This was a secret I'd carried for 20 years. The bus lurched forward, but the woman remained perfectly still, like she was somehow separate from the world around us. Other passengers carried on with their lives, completely oblivious to the nightmare unfolding in seat 23. "Your wife Sarah doesn't know about that kiss with Jennifer at the office Christmas party 3 years ago," she whispered, her smile growing wider. "But don't worry, she was too drunk to remember it anyway, wasn't she?" I felt sick to my stomach. Each revelation was like a punch to the gut. How could she know these things? Who was she? What did she want? The questions swirled in my mind, but my mouth couldn't form the words to ask them. She leaned closer, her perfume smelling of decay and roses. "I know everything about you, Alex. Every secret, every lie, every dark thought you've ever had. And I'm not the only one who knows. There are others like me," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow cut through the bus's engine noise. "We've been watching you, Alex. All of you. Every single person in this city. We know everything about everyone." My throat felt dry as sandpaper. Through the window, I could see we were approaching my stop. Never had 5 blocks felt so far away. The woman's words kept coming, relentless as waves in a storm. "That nightmare you had last week? The one where you were trapped in your childhood home while it burned? We were there. We're always there, Alex. In your dreams, in your memories, in those moments when you think you're completely alone." I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was a hacker who had accessed my personal information. Maybe she was a stalker who had been following me. But how could she know about my dreams? About thoughts I'd never shared with anyone? "You're wondering how I know all this," she said, reading my mind yet again. "The truth is far simpler and far more terrifying than you can imagine. We've always been here, Alex. Since the beginning. Watching, learning, waiting." Her hand touched my arm. Her fingers were ice cold, sending shivers down my spine. "Today is important, Alex. Today is when everything changes. We've chosen you for a reason." The bus stopped at a red light, and the woman reached into her coat pocket. My heart nearly stopped when she pulled out a small black business card. It looked ordinary enough, but something about it seemed wrong, like it was absorbing the light around it. "You have a choice to make," she said, holding the card between her thumb and forefinger. "You can take this card and learn the truth about everything. About us, about yourself, about the real nature of this world. Or you can get off at your stop and try to forget this conversation ever happened." She paused, her eyes boring into mine. "But remember, Alex, knowledge can't be unknown. Once you see behind the curtain, there's no going back. And trust me, what's behind that curtain will change everything you think you know about reality." The card seemed to pulse in her hand, like it had a heartbeat of its own. Part of me wanted to grab it, to finally understand what was happening. But another part, the part that still clung to sanity, screamed at me to run. "Your stop is coming up," she said. "Time to decide, but choose carefully. This offer won't come again, and the consequences of either choice will follow you for the rest of your life." The bus was slowing down. Through the window, I could see my office building approaching. I had about 30 seconds to make a decision that would change everything. My hand trembled as I reached for the card. Everything in my body was telling me to run, but my curiosity was stronger than my fear. As my fingers touched the card, a jolt of electricity shot through my arm. The woman's smile grew impossibly wide. "Brave choice, Alex," she said, releasing the card into my hand. "Now, look at the number." I turned the card over. There was a single phone number written in silver ink that seemed to shift and change as I watched. "Call it when you get home tonight. Not before. Not during your lunch break. Not from your office. It has to be from your house, and you have to be alone." Her voice had taken on an urgent tone I hadn't heard before. "What happens if I call from somewhere else?" I asked, finally finding my voice. Her expression darkened. "Trust me, Alex. You don't want to find out. Some rules exist for a reason. Breaking them has consequences." The bus came to my stop. As I stood up on shaking legs, she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was like iron, her skin still ice cold. "One more thing, Alex. Don't tell anyone about our conversation. Not Sarah, not your best friend Tom, not your therapist Dr. Mitchell. No one." I stumbled off the bus, the card burning in my pocket. As the bus pulled away, I looked back. The woman was gone. Not just moved to another seat. Completely gone. As if she'd never been there at all. The workday passed in a blur. I couldn't focus on anything. The meeting with Johnson and partners? I don't even remember what we discussed. The card in my pocket felt like it weighed 100 pounds, constantly reminding me of what waited at home. My colleagues noticed something was off. "You okay, Alex? You look like you've seen a ghost," Tom asked during lunch. If he only knew how close to the truth he was. I made up some excuse about not feeling well. Every time I checked my phone, the numbers seemed to rearrange themselves, like they were dancing across the screen. Twice, I could have sworn I saw the woman's reflection in my computer monitor. But when I turned around, there was nobody there. Sarah called around 4 p.m. "Honey, want to grab dinner tonight? That new Italian place opened downtown." My heart sank. I had to lie to my wife. "Sorry, not feeling great. Probably coming down with something. Going to head straight home and rest." The guilt was immediate and crushing. We never lie to each other. Well, except for that Christmas party incident. As soon as I thought about it, I could smell the woman's decay and Rose's perfume. I looked around frantically, but I was alone in my office. By the time I left work, my shirt was soaked with sweat. The card in my pocket felt like it was burning a hole through my clothes. The walk home had never seemed so long. 7:30 p.m. Sarah had texted to say she was having dinner with her sister instead. The house was empty, silent except for the hum of the heating system. I sat on our bedroom floor, the black card in front of me, my phone in my trembling hand. The numbers on the card had stopped shifting, finally settling into a clear sequence. With each digit I dialed, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. By the time I pressed call, I could see my breath in the air. 1 ring. The lights in the room flickered. 2 rings. The mirror on our dresser cracked from corner to corner. 3 rings. The phone felt like a block of ice in my hand. Then, a click. No voice, no greeting, just the sound of breathing. Not human breathing. It was too rhythmic, too deep, like it was coming from something much larger than a person. I waited, unable to speak, unable to move. Finally, a voice spoke, not the woman from the bus. This voice was impossible to describe, like multiple voices speaking in perfect unison, some high, some low, some not even human. "Welcome, Alex. Are you ready to learn the truth?" Before I could answer, images started flooding my mind. Impossible images. Things that couldn't exist. Things that shouldn't exist. And with those images came understanding. Terrible, wonderful, mind-shattering understanding. Everything I thought I knew about reality was wrong. The world, our world, was just a thin veneer over something much larger, much older, much more terrifying. The woman on the bus and her kind, they weren't human. They never were. They showed me everything. How they've been here since before humans existed. How they've shaped our evolution, our civilization, our very thoughts. Those moments when you think someone's watching you, those déjà vu experiences, the dreams you can't quite remember, all them. I saw their true forms, and my mind struggled to process what I was seeing. They exist in dimensions we can't perceive, watching us, studying us, collecting every detail of our lives. They know our past, our present, and all our possible futures. The voice kept speaking, explaining things that human language was never designed to describe. With each revelation, I felt my grip on reality slipping. The world around me started to look different, like I could see through the cracks in what we call reality. I learned why they chose me, why today was important. They needed someone to help them, to be their eyes and ears in our world. Someone who could identify others like me, people ready to learn the truth. But with this knowledge came a price, a terrible, devastating price that I would have to pay for the rest of my life. The changes started immediately. When I looked in the mirror, my reflection moved a fraction of a second too late. I could hear conversations from houses down the street, thoughts that weren't my own drifting through my mind. Colors became brighter, more intense, and I could see new ones that had no names. Time started moving differently, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes sideways. I could feel the earth spinning beneath my feet, could sense the vast emptiness of space above. My memories began to change too. I remembered things that hadn't happened yet. I remembered different versions of my life, ones where I made different choices, took different paths, all equally real, all existing simultaneously. Sarah came home around 9 p.m. When she looked at me, I could see her every possible future playing out at once. I could see every thought she'd ever had, every dream, every fear. It was too much. Too much knowledge, too much awareness. I tried to act normal, but how do you act normal when you can see the molecules that make up the air? When you can feel the thoughts of every living thing within a mile radius? When you know that reality itself is a lie? The woman from the bus was right. Once you see behind the curtain, there's no going back. And I was just beginning to understand what that really meant. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still adjusting to my new awareness. The beings, I still don't know what to call them, contact me regularly now. They give me assignments, people to watch, potential candidates to identify. I ride the bus every day now, studying the passengers, looking for signs that they're ready to learn what I learned, to see what I've seen. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the window, and I swear I look just like that woman did. Knowing, watching, waiting. Yesterday, I sat next to a young woman named Rachel. I knew everything about her the moment I saw her. Her fears, her dreams, her secrets. I knew she was ready. So I smiled at her and said, "Good morning, Rachel." The look on her face, that mixture of fear and fascination, was so familiar. I remembered wearing that same expression 3 weeks ago. As I pulled out a black business card, I could feel the others watching through my eyes, eager to welcome another into their world. You might be wondering why I'm sharing this story. The truth is, I'm not just sharing it, I'm watching, reading your reactions, sensing your thoughts, because maybe, just maybe, you're ready too. And if you are, well, I might be sitting next to you on your next bus ride.